Inverses are functions to do the opposite of something. So, for example, y equals 2x plus 1. I don't mean opposite, I mean it kind of sends it back again. So, for example, y equals 2x plus 1 doubles and then adds 1. So, for example, it would turn a 2 into a 5. The inverse function just sends a 5 back into a 2. So, in other words, the inverse function takes what a function gives it and sends it back to where it started. So the 2 became the 5, the inverse would turn the 5 into the 2. So the original is the 2 to the 5, that's this. The inverse would turn the 5 back into the 2. Now often in exams you have to come up with the algebra for the inverse. To come up with the algebra for the inverse, you follow these steps. Step 1 is to turn it into ordinary language if it's not an ordinary language. So if they're using this FX business, then just turn this into a y, just because you're used to it. Okay, that's step 1, is to put the y in if it's not there already. Step 2 is to make x the subject. Just do red dudes. So that's step 2, is to get x by itself using red dudes. Step 3 is to do find and replace. So everywhere you see an x, write a y. Everywhere you see a y, write an x. In other words, swap x and y. So I see a y there, write an x. See an x there, write a y. Now that's your answer. That is the inverse. I'll just check. If you put a 5 in that, what do you get? 5 minus 1 is 4. Divided by 2, you get 2. Just like I said, it would turn a 5 into a 2 because a 2 got turned into a 5 by the original. Now, often they say find an expression for this. I hate that wording because we always tell people that negative powers are like fractions. This has nothing to do with this. This is just a really terrible notation for the inverse. So often you might have to write this at the very end. Okay, I'll give you another example. If hx was equal to 1 over x plus 2, then put y in, so you're on familiar territory. Then do red dudes, times both sides by x plus 2 in a bracket. Expand the bracket, that's not a red dude. Get rid of this term. Divide both sides by y. Now, find and replace x and y. So wherever you see an x, write a y. Whenever you see a y, write an x. And that's your answer. That's the inverse. And if you want to posh up the language, just write h negative 1x equals 1 minus 2x over x.